Welcome back to the show. Tuesday brings with it the release of Out of the Darkness, the mystery of Aaron Rodgers, an unauthorized biography from sports reporter and author Ian O'Connor. And it's hard to say after reading the book if the story of Rodgers gets more or less murky. And stopping by the show right now is the author of the book, Ian O'Connor. Ian, thanks for joining us. I'll be honest with you, I just finished reading the book cover to cover, and I don't know how I feel now about Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if I like him. I don't know if I should be angry with him. I don't know if I should feel sorry for him. I don't know if I should be cheering for him. He is a conundrum. And so I ask you this, after writing the book, how do you feel about Aaron Rodgers?
I think I actually like him a little bit more than I did at the start of the process, Kyle. But one of the appeals to me was the mystery of him and trying to figure out who he is, because he is an elusive, distant figure. And I found that, listen, in the last 3-4 years, all the media coverage about him, most of it anyway, has been negative. And he's become a villain in the NFL ever since COVID, and his comment in 2021 that he had been immunized, misleading the public, that he, not stating that he was unvaccinated at the time. So I really wanted to find out exactly who he is. And I think deep down, he's still one of the good guys, but that is certainly not the way he's been portrayed the last 3 or 4 years in the NFL.
Let's talk a little bit about the media attention this book is getting. It's due out on Tuesday, but I've been reading about it throughout all kinds of media sources, really because of some of the comments he made to you about some of the hot button issues he's been a part of. And you've already mentioned one of them. It was his vaccination status. And it was back during COVID that he said to the media that he was immunized. And we learned later that that was essentially a lie. And he's never apologized for that. But what is his stance on that now? What did he tell you?
He didn't apologize for it, but he understands that dramatically changed his life. He has never recovered from that public relations hit. And the way I positioned it, Kyle, was I said, I can't guarantee this, Aaron, and this was when I was sitting with him. I said, but if I were a columnist in Green Bay, sitting there in that room that day, vaxxed as I was, and you told your truth, which is you were allergic to an ingredient in Pfizer and Moderna and concerned about Johnson & Johnson's side effects reported, and had you told that truth, I would have found that to be a somewhat reasonable explanation. I don't think I would have ripped you that day in my column, and I really believe you would have gotten less than 50% of the criticism you ultimately took in November when the truth came out. So why didn't you just tell the truth? And he basically said, you're right, I should have. I realize that now, that he made a mistake. And Aaron Rodgers really never says he's sorry about anything. He doesn't admit mistakes. And so I was surprised that he said that. I think he realized the damage that caused, and that he's been a fearless public speaker. That was the one time he was not fearless, and it cost him.
You fast forward to Aaron Rodgers today, and even non-football fans have seen Aaron Rodgers in the media, and it seems as though he has this vibe of being the smartest guy in the room and drives this narrative through his many media appearances and says outlandish things at sometimes and makes accusations that have come back to bite him. So do you feel that this aura about him now, his persona, is that damaging his resume as a football star?
I think so. And I think, obviously, a lot of this could be wiped away with a Super Bowl victory with a Charlie Brown franchise like the Jets, who haven't been to a Super Bowl since January of 1969. I think we both know, Kyle, in sports, victory doesn't equal virtue, but a lot of times those two things get confused. So if he does win another Super Bowl before he retires, particularly in New York, for a Loserville franchise that hasn't been to the big one since January of 1969, I think that would wipe away a lot of on-field postseason sins and off-field sins as well. So he has an opportunity to rectify some of that, but he has been reckless with his words. You take the Jimmy Kimmel affair, for instance. Yeah. I really don't believe that day on the McAfee show he intended to suggest that Kimmel was on the Epstein list, but Kimmel had mocked him months earlier. He was looking for an opportunity to get back at him. And on that show, A.J. Hawk blurted out something about the Epstein list and Kimmel, and obviously Aaron Rodgers followed suit, said something he shouldn't have said. 9 out of 10 viewers, if not 10 out of 10, thought he was saying that Kimmel was on that list, and I really don't believe that's what Aaron Rodgers meant to say. The problem is when he tried to explain it later on, he had already lost that battle, and he was just reckless with the word choice. It cost him. And so there are self-inflicted wounds and unforced errors here later in his career that have really hurt him and his public image. And again, a championship might help rectify some of that, but probably not all of it.
Well, Ian, this has been fun chatting with you about your book. Thank you for writing it. It certainly made me think a lot. And again, I'm still not quite sure what I think about Aaron Rodgers. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much, Kyle.